I know I still owe you this.
I was going to bring that up.
And I did a little sketch.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that looks so cool.
Thanks.
That was at Air Capital Comic-Con in 2019.
I know.
Was the last time we saw each other.
I know.
Yeah, and I told you I bought that book from you, and you said you were going to do an awesome sketch in it, and
awesome?
it was and you were like, hey, I didn't have time to do it over the weekend because it's a Comic-Con, there's stuff going on, and we were planning at being both at Planet Comic-Con in 2020, and I said, just hang on to it. I'll pick it up from you at Planet Comic-Con in 2020.
Yep.
And here we are now. That was going to be in March of 2020. And here we are in August of 2021. And you're still holding that book, my friend.
I actually did that sketch at Planet.
Oh, yeah.
I had a few left I was trying to sell. And then I was like, maybe if I sketch in this one, I can sell it for more. And then no one bought it. So I'm like, oh, this is for Aaron. No. I couldn't even remember if I told you I'd sketch something specific. I don't know.
It wasn't anything specific. I was going to just buy the book from you, and you being a good-natured artist at his table, you were like, do you want me to draw in it? And I said, yes, obviously I do, for no extra charge. And then I remember you were like, I don't have time at the con, but I'll whip something up and I'll give it to you in a few months. And I remember totally
traded a couple books, and I definitely took your books.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I probably had something. Yeah, it's been so long ago now, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll just go right into the podcast now. I feel like that was a pretty good intro to our relationship. But I am speaking with Bryan Timmins, artist out of Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. Is that correct?
No, Kansas side. I mean, I live in the suburbs of KC.
Well, the only time I ever see you is in the Kansas City area.
Right.
But so you're a proud Kansasian. Is that how they say that?
Kansan?
Kansan? That's okay. I'm from St. Louis, but I'm from Illinois. So it's the same thing,
Yeah, I'm from Missouri. I was actually born in KC, Missouri.
Okay.
Downtown, but then I moved all around the country growing up. But
oh yeah?
Yeah, and now I'm back.
Now you're back in your roots.
Yeah.
Your old stomping grounds.
True.
Well, man, gosh, I don't even know where to begin with this now that the podcast has started officially. Why don't you tell me, because we met probably, I'm trying to remember when we would have met, early in at a Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City, I'm sure. We probably met through some mutual people that we know. Because there's a weird thing that happens at cons where everybody just kind of like all meets each other on like one day, and then you kind of know each other, but you don't know each other, and then like you just keep seeing each other year after year, and
the Kansas City comic scene, I don't know. I feel like there's like 50 people, and I kind of lump in St. Louis too. You and like people from.
There's a few other St. Louis people that kind of make it over to Kansas City,
and like Joplin people and stuff, but like I kind of feel like we're all part of the same group. And
so when was the first year that you did a comic convention as an artist, like with a table, when you were trying to sell something and make back that money that you spent on the table?
Right. I think it was like 2016, 2017-ish. Like I started small, the Free State in Lawrence. That was my first ever show. And I tabled right next to Ed Bickford.
And
we had a blast. And
so that's our connections are our mutual friend, Ed Bickford, I think.
Probably.
Probably, yeah. And I was doing Free State for a few years in a row there. I was I really liked that convention. It's like a little bit of a drive for me, but it's a college town, and it's just a small little 1 day thing. And there was always a lot of, I mean, Kansas City, that area between Lawrence and Kansas City, because Lawrence, Kansas is a little further inland into Kansas than Kansas City, obviously on the border of Missouri and Kansas. But because it's a college town, they always had good creators there, and it was always just like a good crowd of people. It was fun. I like cool doing it a lot.
I like to go there, and like I'm fairly close to it, so it's fun to pop up there and hang out with people, and then go out to dinner in Lawrence. And
yeah,
it's a nice small show.
But. So 2016ish, eh? That's actually a little later than I had thought.
I could be wrong. It's around there.
Yeah. So have you?
Because I went to like Elite Comics is like my local comic shop I go to a lot, and for the year of it was Batman's like 75 anniversary.
Okay.
He did a nice event, like a sidewalk sale kind of thing, and a bunch of artists set up, and that was the first time I ever set up. And then right after that was Free State, and then I probably did Planet the next spring for the first time.
Okay, I gotcha. So have you? It sounds like a weird question, but have you been an artist all your life? Like,
yeah.
Are you just one of those weird kids that's always been drawing?
Oh yeah, I was definitely the weird kid that drew, sat in the back of the class and drew, and I moved around a ton, like almost every year.
Yeah.
Town. Yeah.
Were your parents military?
No, they were on the run. No. You ever see the movie Running on Empty? No. It was my dad's job. We just moved around a lot, and the way I like would make friends would be like I'd sit down and draw, like a funny character or something, and be like the weird kid that draws. Like he'll draw you a Ninja Turtle or something.
Yeah. So what drew you to comic books?
I've been, reading them most of my life. As a kid, we'd go to garage sales and I would pick up like 70s Fantastic Four or the Hulk, Incredible Hulk. Those were like my first foray into comics. I got my dad bartered this guy down to like a dime for this whole box of comics. And
nice.
And it was like some like Ernie, what's his name? Ernie Chan, I think his name. Like Hulk, and then like 70s Fantastic Four. That's pretty forgettable, but like I read them constantly and like copied the pages, and then I got into like I never lived in a town big enough that had a comic shop, and so it was always like the spinner rack at the grocery store. So
right,
I got into like G.I. Joe was like my
that was mine too. Like my first comic book. I'm fairly certain it was G.I. Joe. I kind of like it's a little iffy because like I've been reading comics literally as long as my memory like I can remember, but I'm pretty confident it was G.I. Joe. Like I was at an age. G.I. Joe was at the top of its game, and I just have this strong memory of somebody, because I didn't buy them. Somebody just gave them to me, and they're like, "Oh, you like G.I. Joe because you have all the toys. Like, read these comic books." And that was like it. Yeah.
One of my first was that it's like Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, like on the cover. And I think it's Mike Zeck. Cover like that sort of run where Mike Zeck was doing all the covers. And I rebought like all those. I mean, most of them I still had, but
that's
covered that inspiration.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. I love G.I. Joe. So you're old enough to remember the spinner rack. I found that's a pretty good. Like a dividing line between like a generational marker like for people, because like it's interesting because I meet people that are like into comics and they're into art and they like the storytelling potential of comic books, but they're like, oh, I never read a comic book until I was in college and I took a course and I realized, and I'm just like, man, I was that loser kid who was at like fucking Kmart, and would like find a spinner rack and buy stuff off the shelf. Yeah,
or
you know what I mean?
Or you get the little packs that like they would turn the good one facing out.
Yes.
So like, ooh, it's Spider-Man. And then inside is like Archie and Donald Duck.
This is a bunch of junk. I had, there was one, I specifically remember there was a pack that they put, I think it was Wolverine number 50, which is the one that had like the 3 claw marks and it was top secret files. and it was like, buy $10, which in 1990, $10 was a lot of money, but it was like, get 3 comic books, and one of them is definitely this awesome Wolverine comic.
Right.
And it was like, okay, I'm doing it. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember the spinner rack, like the G.I. Joe, like I would go and get them, and they were like 75 cents then or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. That's ugh. And now they're like $6 a pop if you're buying a Batman comic from DC. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. But so that's cool. I always love talking with people that comics have been influential on them at a young age.
Yeah, I definitely bring them like tucked into my textbooks, to school.
Yeah.
And, like it was not cool then. Like,
no, it wasn't. And it's one of those things where I feel like a crazy person trying to like underline that.
And drew and like that was not cool then.
Yeah, I know. Like everything nowadays, it's like I am so sorry for sounding like an old man, but like I remember being the most uncool kid in school because I liked Spider-Man and the X-Men, and and like nobody else even cared what it was, much less like tolerated it. Like it's such a different time now where it's peak pop culture. It's like, it's the thing. It's like what I joke about. It's similar thing with video games. So it's like when I was a kid, I was not cool because I played video games, and now I'm an old man and I'm not cool because I don't play video games. It's the same thing with comic books. It's weird, except I do still like comic books.
And from G.I. Joe, I went to like X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Like right around there, it was Jim Lee was on X-Men. And Gambit was like new, and then and Will Spertatio was on Uncanny X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Like great, it was great to me.
Those books were hot.
Yeah, McFarlane was on Spider-Man. And, like all that.
Liefeld
stuff.
Doing X-Force. It was.
Yeah, I have notebooks like full of like me copying Liefeld.
Yeah, me too. I never developed my artist skills to be a proper artist, but I was definitely imitating the Liefeld, Jim Lee, McFarlane comics, at the time.
Yeah. Well, then also like I remember this, like in 5th or 6th grade, me and my buddy would like make these zines.
Mm-hmm.
And we would like, what I would do is like, I like animals. So I'd photocopy like National Geographic articles about tigers and sharks and stuff.
Yeah.
And then draw like my own like crappy comics and then hand them out to all the kids in class. And they were like, what's this? And
yeah, I did that. So that was, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. Literally, I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. So you might actually be the first person to hear this. But in the mid 90s, so collectible card games were becoming a thing. I can't remember if Magic had come around at this point. It probably had, but Marvel was moving into their collectible card game with a thing called Overpower.
Oh yeah.
And it was like you'd buy the packs and you get the character cards and you get the the booster stuff. As far as card games go, I think it was not great, but I was all in because I was like, it's a game where you play as the Marvel characters and you all fight each other. And so I had like my team, because of course the team consisted of just the popular characters at the time. Like like Wolverine, Magneto, Hulk, Captain America, Venom. You know, they're all like cool. I liked Bishop a lot. I think he was pretty hot in the 90s. So anyway, I started drawing a comic book of what would be the best overpower match of like 2 teams of 3. And in retrospect, I look at it now and I'm like, that was basically the origin of the Secret Wars crossover in the 80s. Just like 10 years later, they were, you know, that was the whole thing, was they were like, put all of our popular characters in one book and make them fight and it'll sell like gangbusters. And it did. And then they created the card game, not based off of that, but just following through with the concept of like, put all our popular characters out there and have them fight. And it totally worked on me. So like if I had been, I didn't read Secret Wars in the 80s, but if I had gotten a hold of it, if I had been that age, it would have probably blown me away if I was the proper age. But yeah, that was my first actual foray into comic books. Was I wrote and drew my overpower Marvel Comics fan fiction.
Nice. And that, like, back then I loved the big events where, you know, like you had to collect all the books. I mean, I never did, but like the big story, like the first one I remember was Inferno, like X-Men
Inferno. Yeah, still got those issues.
Nice. I have a few of those. And then like Fall of Mutants, that was a big one.
Yep.
And then I sort of fell off after I discovered indie books around there. So
yeah, it's that weird thing where I guess it's inevitable, but like I feel like Marvel got a little too greedy, but I don't want to just blame Marvel. Like I feel like anybody's going to get too greedy with that kind of a thing, where, because I mean it's still going on today with their crossovers. Like the current X-Men line, they just did like an X of Swords miniseries where you had to buy like, it was like 22 issues for the whole story arc. And Frank Miller did a 6-issue run on Daredevil with David Mazzucchelli in the 80s called Born Again. And it's like the greatest comic book story arc of all time. It was 6 issues. And it's like, to follow this X-Men crossover, it's like 22. Man, nuts to that. That's like Grant Morrison's entire run on New X-Men is 22 issues.
I'm afraid like now that, I mean, the business model is let's sell each issue as if it's a number 1.
Yeah.
There's a whole cadre of like people that collect.
Yeah.
Like, not like they don't care about readers anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And I even hate leveling that criticism at Marvel, because here we are in the year 2021, and that criticism sounds so passe.
Yeah.
Like they've been doing it for so long, and it's like, right. You know, boo at you for doing this, but it's like, well, they're still doing it, and I guess it's working. Like, I don't like it, but yeah.
Also, I definitely believe, you know, I've changed as a person to where, like, you know, the team of superheroes is not as interesting to me as it was, you know, when I was younger. But
yeah, I mean, I agree. There's an aspect I've sort of always maintained. This is kind of my struggle with like current culture, is because I do kind of feel like superheroes as a genre are just morality stories for kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very noble thing. Sure. But that opinion is at odds with my reverence for the greatest comic book writer of all time, Alan Moore, who is very much not writing for kids, and his whole thing is turning these kids things into stories for adults.
Yeah.
But
and playing with the idea of those things.
Exactly. Yeah. But I would also like follow that up with Alan Moore's version of superheroes only works if superheroes continue to be kids' entertainment. Like if everything becomes Alan Moore's version of superheroes, then it stops losing its punch, because it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, it's sort of like DC came out with, I mean, Warner Brothers came out with the Man of Steel, which was like this grim, dark Superman. But it's like, if Superman's dark, where do you go for?
Yeah, right.
how dark do you need to go?
Exactly. Like you can't be the dark reflection of something that no longer exists. Now you're just the thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you're not commentating on,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's no longer a commentary, and now you're just the thing, and that's not interesting.
No.
Yeah. But anyway, so you read a lot of superhero comics as a kid, and then you moved into a lot of like indie comics.
Yeah, I mean, I was like collecting comics when, Jim Lee and Will Sportatio and like those guys, McFarlane, created Image, and
that was a revolution.
Yeah.
The
only one I've ever met is Jim Valentino.
I met Jim Valentino too at a comic book convention. He was very nice, very professional.
Yeah. But then that led into like Hellboy and Madman and like all that stuff, which was way more interesting for me as I got older, and character wise and story wise, like it wasn't just like a team of people with these weird powers that would just fight unendingly these bad guys.
Yeah. Now, I remember that being like a thing with me too, where I read a lot of like comic books as a kid, G.I. Joe, Spider-Man, X-Men, and then that transition to getting into indie comics, and it being less about just the characters doing things and more about the story, where it's like you're kind of like your mind is expanding and your concept of what entertainment can be is expanding, and you're just like, oh, I actually care about this story. It's not so much about the characters.
Yeah.
Just looking badass.
Yeah, because Hellboy is like a cool character.
Yeah.
But each episode was like some sort of, story based on a real, event in history, or like a real myth, or like it's like homework went into creating this and telling this.
I felt smarter for reading Hellboy. I remember being like, wow, this is like a real thing. This isn't like some excuse to sell underwear with pictures of Wolverine on it. Like this is like a real thing.
Which is cool, but
yeah, exactly. I love Wolverine underoos. Like
I've my mom has tons of photos of like me and my brother in underoos.
Yeah. Yeah. I had some boxers that had Gambit on them. I specifically remember. I begged my mom to buy them. I was like, I really need these.
I remember when I thought Gambit was cool.
Well, we could do a whole podcast just on Gambit. I think
he throws cards.
It looks cool. Like hold the playing card. And... yeah.
I used to live in New Orleans, and
did you really?
Yeah, nobody sounds like that.
I was gonna say, did you meet a lot of colorful characters that
yes,
they wore that what was that, like
pink
blue
spandex and
pink spandex with like a blue plastic thing around their neck and a brown trench coat over that?
Yeah, everybody looks like that.
Yeah. It's still one of the most baffling character designs I think I've ever seen.
But I still love that. It's X-Men like 275 or whatever, with like the gatefold Jim Lee, fold out cover, which is like when they were in space, and it was like Wolverine Gambit. And...
yeah.
I love that cover.
That's good. And so what? So you've read comic books as a kid. You've always been into art. Like what caused you to like make the leap to like draw comic books? Like how did that happen?
I mean, over the years, I drew comics in like junior high, like high school, and then just random stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like really dumb stuff, but and then I got into, I don't know. I just tried to. For a little while, I lived in New Orleans, and I met up with this this writer guy, and we worked on a comic together, and that's how I learned about Diamond and like the sort of procedure to get
publishing aspect of it.
Yeah, comic. And I was reading like Poison Elves at the time, and Drew Hayes, the guy that created that, he wrote a lot about like self-publishing and stuff. And so, and we were working on a comic together, and we submitted to Diamond, and it wasn't accepted at the time. So we started to like retool, and I don't know. I don't know. I drew some comics. I got into animation for a while. I went to school for animation. And,
okay.
Yeah. And because I felt like, I mean, it's another thing that I've been interested in. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like it's visual storytelling. So
there's a heavy crossover in like animation and comics. Yes. I mean, just in like creators, there's people starting as comics and moving into animation, and animators who are just doing comics on the side. Yeah. Like, as far as two industries go, they might be two of the most intertwined, but also like you have like the stalwarts, like the people like that are kind of like the working at the top of their respected industry. They're not crossing over, but yeah, a lot of that industry mixes back and forth between.
Oh yeah, like, I love like Valve, the game company. Like they put out like little anthology books with like the people that work there do comics.
Yeah.
And just various Disney. I get some anthology books that are all Disney animators like doing comics, and so it's all. I mean, it's not quite like storyboarding, but it's all storytelling.
Right. I remember reading an interview with Sean Gordon Murphy when he kind of came onto the comic book scene, and he was like instantly like this hot new artist, and he had been working in animation doing storyboards. And I think he was, if I recall correctly, he was working on like Family Guy, like doing storyboards for Family Guy, and he just hated it. Because he's like, this is awful. This is the most unartistic thing to do. Storyboards for Family Guy. I don't want to do it anymore. And so he was talking to, I guess, like people at Fox or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, we'll move you on to another show called American Dad. And it's like the same thing. It's a Seth MacFarlane show. And he's like, man, fuck this. I'll just go be a comic book artist, I guess. Because he just hated working as like a storyboard artist for these animated shows that he did not like the style of. And now he's kind of like a go-to comic book artist guy, like in the comic book scene for sure. He's definitely a guy who can just like pick his projects. Yeah,
I got into like I wanted to be a 2D animator, like drawing and stuff. But at the time when I went to school, everybody's like, "Oh, there's no jobs in that." So I went to like computer animation was my focus. And after that school, I mostly got jobs working as like sports graphics. So like creating the seventh inning stretch stuff and like headshots for the Royals or Braves or whatever. And it was fun, but it was like not quite what I wanted to do.
But it paid a paycheck.
Yeah. And a better one than comics, but
yeah.
But I miss drawing and stuff, and so I focused back on drawing.
Yeah. What was the first comic book that you did? Do you remember?
Like professionally, or
the first comic that you drew that you tried to sell?
I don't know. I was drawing these like really stupid things as a kid, and I guess I'm. Like,
what was the first book that you took to a comic book convention?
I think it was in when I was like focusing more on drawing comics, I saw this on Facebook, this like open call for writers and artists to be in the steampunk anthology.
Okay.
And I put my name in there, and I got in there, and I was actually paired with a Kansas City writer to work on this like short story. And so we like worked on it and batted around ideas, and I sketched some stuff, and I was also teamed with someone else to do a 1-page thing, and I did that, and so it was published in that book. It's like Arcana, I think, did.
Oh yeah, Arcana.
Yeah, steampunk anthology book, steampunk something. So I have a 1-page story in 1 issue, and then I was working with C.W. Cook on this other story, but then we decided to work on something else together. So that like snowballed into just working on stories, and then going to shows. And I'd never been to I went to a show in like 2000 in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And I met like Brian Bendis was there. He had just put out Powers #1.
Cool. And, that would have been like early Bendis. Well, relatively.
Yeah, and I had Torso, and so I had him sign that then.
Nice.
And then like I met like a really young Jason Sean Alexander, Mike Norton, and 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 I met John Byrne was there.
Oh wow, cool. Yeah. I still would like to meet John Byrne. He's one of those creators who's like,
I like his work.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say.
It was it was not a good meeting.
Yeah, that's why I was afraid. I'm afraid. Like there's a lot of those older creators who are like, their work is so monumental and so influential, but I'm so afraid to meet them. I mean,
Bendis is cool.
And by all accounts, I've heard Bendis is awesome.
And that's the show I met Jim Valentino, and he was nice. And, and
Valentino's
I met
a good guy.
Amanda Connor was there, and she was super nice.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Remind me to tell you sometime. I don't want to tell this story right now.
I don't want to tell the John Byrne one.
No, I met Chris Claremont, and
oh wow,
it was perfectly fine. He was absolutely professional, but also it's one of my it's one of my don't meet your heroes stories. And not because, I just want to stress, not because of anything he did, because I was just like totally awkward and totally like, oh my God, it's Chris Claremont, and it's like, this is the guy that created the X-Men, and it was just it was just awkward and weird, and I certainly didn't make it any better than it could have been. But it was not my favorite
was that
comic book creator meeting.
Was that at Planet or?
That was at Planet a few years back.
Yeah, I remember when he was there.
Yeah, he was there. Yep. And then he was that same year. I think I went to Heroes Con, or maybe the year after, and he was there too. And it was such a weird thing, because like, this is how like psycho I am. Because I was like walking by his table, and of course there's a line of people there to meet his table, and I was like, oh my God, it's Chris Claremont. I'm gonna go over an aisle because I'm afraid that he's gonna see me and remember how weird I was and how awkward I was, even though there's no fucking way he's gonna remember. He meets a million people a day that are probably all weird and awkward, but I was just like, so like, it was such a thing for me where I was like, I'm not going anywhere near that.
I mean, you never know. Like, I've met some creators, like, like multiple times, and they act like, I mean, I don't know. They don't remember. But I've met other ones that, like, the next show I'm at, they're like, oh, hey, Brian, Yeah. I've met Matt Kemp several times. He's,
Ironically, he's a St. Louis creator, but I've never talked to him in St. Louis. It's always been at comic conventions outside of St. Louis, and he's always very polite and very, very nice. And he I think he remembers me. I can't tell how much of it is he's just such a nice guy. Like he's so nice. It's hard to tell. Even if he was lying, I wouldn't believe if he was lying. So, but he's a good dude.
I have a sketch by him.
Yeah.
I collect Abe Sapien sketches and by
That's right, you do. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're all over my living room.
Nice. So one thing I'm curious about, like we kind of alluded to earlier with this whole pandemic thing, there's just been a shutdown in comic convention stuff. So like, how have you been doing with all of that? Like, have you stayed productive? Like, are you working?
So I was working at a print shop before the pandemic struck.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Like the main focus was like sports T-shirts, screen printing, like sportswear for colleges.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd sort of maneuvered myself into printing like physical posters and catalogs and stuff. So I worked this this book printer that was like the length of an entire room, and like I would plug in a PDF and then it would print the pages and staple them and spit out like final catalogs.
Yeah.
And I was working my boss was super awesome, and so I fixed it so I could print comics there and prints and stuff, and
nice.
Yeah. But like early in the pandemic, we were sent home and furloughed.
Yeah.
And then I was finally laid off.
Oh my God! Really? I didn't hear about that.
Because it was like the bread and butter for that company was college sports teams.
Mm-hmm.
And when, like sports went away, for a while, and school basically.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, all schools especially. Nobody was going to school, so
and I would print like internal catalogs for the sales team to send out, and so like of all their like T-shirts and sweatshirts and sweatpants. And,
yeah, the school merch.
Yeah.
They're selling to all their alumni and such.
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
I really liked it, but and then my kids I have two children that are twins.
Mm-hmm.
They're 9 years old now, but they were sent home early, last 2020.
Yeah.
And then my wife started working from home, and so a lot of
you got a full house.
Yeah. A lot of going to the woods and walking around and hiking and iPads and movies and so I don't know, it was tough for a while and I wasn't really doing much, but then I got into making like custom action figures.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen that occasionally online. Like I've seen people posting pictures of like custom action figures that they've done or had done. I didn't realize that you had been doing that.
Yeah, I've always loved toys and I collect toys and action figures, and I mostly love like Star Wars, G.I. Joe era like stuff that like still on the card and stuff, because like, for me the most of it's not just the character, but it's like the art of the card.
Sure. Yeah, that was the coolest thing. The G.I. Joe blister packs.
Yeah,
they just looked so awesome. They had that art with like that digital explosion behind them. And then the back had the biography, like the character card. Yeah. All of it. It was such a great package. Like the whole thing was so cool.
Yeah. And like, and sometimes with the vehicles, you get like the fold out like thing that would have all the, vehicles and the figures you could get. And
yeah.
That was,
no, that's cool, man. Well, that's fun. So you've been doing like custom toy stuff?
Yeah, mostly like kit bash kind of stuff where like taking my own figures and taking them apart and reassembling and painting and stuff, and then I make the packaging and I buy the bubbles and glue it all together and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a 3D printer, so I've been messing around with that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I went to school for 3D animation, so I know.
Oh yeah, so that's like you're ready to go. Like all you need is 3D printer, and you've got the knowledge.
Yeah, it's nice to put all my like abilities together.
It all comes together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been making those. It's been fun. But still drawing here and there. And
Yeah.
I still have like the comics that I want to do. I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's been a while since we last spoke. But I know you had been working. You'd been prepping that one comic that you've been doing, the Sharktopus. Is that correct?
Shark Fin.
Shark Fin. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but there was the octopus. In the design. Yeah, Shark Fin, dude. Yeah. Yes, I fucking love that design. That is just awesome. So cool.
Yeah, he doesn't have the right arm, so he's got an octopus that hangs out on his shoulder, and it's his right hand man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
but
man.
I wanted to make action figures of him to sell with the comics, and so that's the ultimate goal of working with the action figure thing. Like the ultimate goal is to be able to create the figures for that book and sell it all together. Just
dude, that'd be awesome. That's I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've done much. Have you stepped much into the world of crowdfunding? But like, that would be a cool Kickstarter project. Comic book toy, the whole package.
Yeah, I was involved in one Kickstarter for a comic Barons. I joined like this like website sort of nerd hub. Wanted to get into comics, and they like pitched this idea to a writer friend of mine, and then we created the comic around the character. We did a Kickstarter, and it was successful, and published the first issue, and then the publisher sort of went away. But
that's the it was a story. That's a story that I hear all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a learning experience.
Yeah,
I'm proud of like some of the panels I made.
Yeah, no, I remember that book. I have it. I do remember Barons. I'm pretty sure I supported the Kickstarter. If I didn't, I bought the issue from you at a Planet Comic Con.
Nice.
It's been a few years, so I don't actually remember, but I know I still got the book. And
nice.
Yeah, I thought it looked great. It was because it also was another one of those books that came out right before the new Mad Max movie came out. So like everybody was hyped on like post-apocalyptic settings and cool cars and tough guys and stuff. Yeah. And it totally fit into that.
Yeah. Prior to that, I colored an issue, the Radiation Day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Brett and Chris made. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess it's also worth pointing out that you did color a 2-page story for me and Ed Bickford for our Troubleshooters series.
Yeah.
Which that one we're gonna do something with that someday, hopefully sooner than later. But if Ed listens to this, maybe that'll light a little fire under his butt. We'll get going on that. But that's the nature of a lot of comic projects, I think, is that they're all kind of in this perpetual limbo because it's really difficult to juggle the business aspect of comics and also that creative energy and the creative drive, because it's very rare for the two of them to line up.
Yeah, most artists aren't good at business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've said that. Like, I know so many artists who like went to art school and they have art degrees, and I'm like, I think it should be. I think any art school worth its salt should be requiring all their students to take business degrees. Like, I know you don't like it, and I know you don't want to hear it, because I'm the same way. Like, I was bored in school, like taking math classes. I took like an accounting 101 class, and I was like bored out of my mind. But like, it's stuff you need to hear. It's just stuff you need to know, and I do think a lot of artists would benefit from something. Just dunk their head in. Just you need.
I think a good idea is to have maybe someone else, like a friend, or someone who maybe not even a friend, but someone to look at your work and choose the best stuff, and they push, like they tell you what to put forward. So I think a lot of artists their ego gets in the way, or they're they don't want to show off, or I don't even know what happens, but like they may not put forth the best,
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good notion, actually, of like getting that outsider perspective. Because with artists especially, with comic books as a medium, like it's so artistically driven, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's an artist medium, but there's a lot of like, I know what it's like when you're a creator and you're really invested in this idea.
Yeah.
But it's just because you're invested in it doesn't mean other people are going to respond to it. Because like you might be overly invested in it. Like you might be invested in it for reasons that nobody else cares about.
Right. Or you like feel the weight of like this 5 years that I put into the creation of this character. And so I want to lead off with like the development of the,
Yeah.
No one wants to see that.
Exactly. Yeah. Bingo. There is that sense. And I kind of talked about that a little bit with a few episodes ago. I talked to another Kansas City writer, Ed LaValle, who's I know that darn Ed.
He's the first Kansas City guy I ever met. He's great.
Is he? Yeah, no, Ed's awesome. And I love talking to Ed because he's a writer guy. No offense, to you artists, but it is nice to talk to a guy who's like into comics from a writer angle.
Like I'm a terrible writer, but
well, I do, and that's one of those fascinating things about comics, is because I do think that a lot of the industry has kind of prioritized writer artists for obvious financial reasons. Like it's just like one guy can live not comfortably, but one guy can live on $20,000 a year. Two people cannot live on $10,000 a year. Like it's just, like it.
No, it's hard.
It's exponentially harder, So I get it. But I talked to Ed, and that was one thing I talked to him about was that feeling of like you've invested all this time into something, and if it's not immediately successful, just feeling like it's a waste, like you need to just move on.
Yeah.
Pardon. And so that's part of like, I was so happy to see him seeing success with Popstar Assassin, because I know he's been doing it for a while. And so it did kind of like instill this, there was this sense of like perseverance pays off. You know what I mean? Like, because I have that feeling too, like as a creator, and I know I can list not even on one hand the number of artists that I know who will do a drawing, and if it isn't immediately optioned for a movie, it's dead to them because it's not it's not successful. I'm moving on, like waste. And there's this sense of like patience and just but also I guess like tying into that, like what I was saying of also not getting too sucked into something and just like pouring your whole life into something that nobody is interested in. You got to have that flexibility to be do what I want to do, but also, listen to people and be aware of what people respond to in your work.
Like be all in on your story and give it your all, but then also like if it's not working, I don't know.
Yeah, don't be afraid to just move on, and just do the next thing. It's a tricky middle ground, because I just described two extremes of,
Yeah,
but it's hard. I know.
it is hard.
Yeah.
In the animation world, you make a demo reel. And that's where you put like, 1 or 2 minutes of your best work together in a short clip, and you send it off to get a job. And so many artists like put, you're supposed to just start with your best, just put your best stuff on there. But so many animators would put like, oh, here's my first ever animation. That no one wants to see that.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I see that all the time in portfolio reviews.
Yeah,
where people are like
drawing at 12.
Yeah, no. Just put your 5 most recent drawings in there.
Yeah.
Show people like the stuff that is your best stuff, and the stuff that's not like nobody wants to see your good drawings from 5 years ago. They want to know that you can do it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Because I have this sweet storm shadow I drew when I was 11 years old.
I believe you.
I probably shouldn't lead off my portfolio with that.
Probably not, man. So, I think we alluded to a little bit. I don't remember how much of it was on the record and off the record, but we alluded to a little bit of doing comic conventions. And this year, normally we meet each other at either Planet Comic Con or Air Capital Comic Con. And Planet Comic Con is in Kansas City. Air Capital is in Wichita, Kansas. But I didn't go to Planet Comic Con this year, but they just did it either last weekend already? I've lost all sense of time. I literally have no idea.
Maybe 2 weekends ago.
Okay, 2 weekends would maybe make sense. So
I don't know.
But you were there, correct?
Yeah. I was there.
So how did that go? Like, was that your first con experience since the whole pandemic thing?
Yeah, because even like the first day I wore my Air Cap 2019 like t-shirt.
Yeah.
So like it was cool. Like the people were out and it seemed like everybody, artists and fans, had been sort of missing this type of interaction. So like it was really nice, and it was kind of like, I don't know, very low key for like it's a pretty big show.
Yeah. I think Planet Comic Con is the biggest show in the Midwest area that is not in Chicago. Like, I guess maybe there might be some stuff in Ohio but I don't think they're as big as Planet Comic Con. Like, you might have some like prestigious stuff, like prestigious indie comic conventions, but they're not big the way Planet Comic Con is big.
Yeah, it's big, and it was cool to see like all the Kansas City creators that I haven't seen in a year and a half, and just catching up with people and seeing fans that I hadn't seen, in a year and a half, and or more than
that.
And because I have like a few people that tend to come to my table, and it's good to catch up with them. But it was a pretty good show. Like, it was relaxed. It was nice to like see all the cosplayers and costumes. And,
that was kind of my hope, is that as things are opening up, it was my hope that there would be this kind of this ferocious need of people to be like, you know what, it's been so long, we need to get out.
Yeah.
And just not even,
and everybody wore masks and
exactly. Cool. Like, and I'm not even like concerning like just with the health stuff, just psychologically. I think people need to just kind of be out and do stuff. So I know there was kind of this fear of like, oh, if we do a con and then nobody's going to show up, because everybody's for whatever reason. So I'm glad it went well. That is reassuring to hear.
I mean, it's like it's a legitimate worry.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
COVID and stuff, but also we need to interact as people and like enjoy the things that we enjoy together. It was good. I liked it. And I was next to, good people, and
that's always like, that's my favorite thing about doing cons, is just being tabled next to people and meeting people, or being tabled next to old friends and being able to just like meet. Because like there's a lot of people I know that are like friends just because I see them 2 times a year or more, you know what I mean? Just at cons. And it's like we go back to our normal daily lives the rest of the year, but during those cons, like that's our time to hang out and, you know, be buds.
Yeah.
And not having that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like the year before COVID, like I saw you at, you know, we did Heroes and I did C2E2 like that year. 20, I think. I don't know. I think it was 2019.
I think I do remember you saying something about doing C2E2. I wasn't there that year, but I like C2E2 a lot. I would like to go back, but I haven't really dipped my toe back into the Chicago comic convention scene just because it's like such a investment, you know, to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I am poor.
It was a fun show. Like it's a big show.
No, that's cool, man. Yeah, so I don't know, now that things are opening up, like when you do a convention, do you make most of your money at cons, like doing original art, selling prints and stuff like that?
Yeah, I like as comics go. Yeah, like I try to do, you know, a couple commissions and like sell off.
I'm just always curious about that because, like, as a writer, like I always see people like they have advice on like the proper way to do a con. And you got your wall set up with your prints, and you know you got your commission prices, and like none of that applies to me. Like as a writer, where I'm like, I got a $5 comic book, you know, I wrote it, and you know I got an artist friend that drew it, and he's not here because he lives on the other side of the country, but you know it's like, we got a book, and it's a very hard thing to sell. So I'm always interested to hear like what works for artists and stuff.
Yeah, I don't really know. like for me, I don't gauge it on like successful equals, you know, like sales.
Right. Yeah.
Like each show is sort of a different thing, and like
I got away from that too. Where like when I started, where I was like all business minded, where I was like, okay, it costs this much to make the book, it costs this much to print it, it costs, you know, here's how many I need to sell to make my money back. And then I didn't go anywhere near that, you know, and I was like, okay, changing gears. It's now just about having fun, and just like I treat cons as a vacation. And it's like, you know, if I can meet people and hang out and make some solid connections, that's more important than, you know, making money on a $5 comic book.
Yeah. I mean, like this last Planet, I sat next to like an old friend and we drew stuff and had fun. And then I got some original art from an artist I like and drew a commission for like a guy that I like to draw commissions for. And so like, and I sold some stuff, but I don't even remember how much. And like, it was, to me, it was a successful con. Like I had a fun time.
No, that's cool, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Got to catch up with, you know, a bunch of Kansas City people I haven't seen in a while. And so that's sort of how I go into cons. Like, and then, you know, the drink and draw was fun. And so it's like the whole, like the culmination of the whole.
Yeah.
It's not just a numbers game.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. So, are you still working on? I know we talked about Shark Fin a little bit. Are you still working on that? You got a plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, I have like a short mini comic written. I'm drawing, and I kind of got distracted a little bit by the action figure thing, but I feel like that's like I want action figures of Shark Fin, so it's kind of going towards the correct way. I don't know. But, so I'm hoping to have that by Air Capital Con in November. Yeah. So I want to have the mini comic for Shark Fin done by then.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. I love the design. It's It's a killer design.
Thank you. It's a fun character.
Yeah. So where can people find your stuff online?
There's BryanTimmins.com, like BryanTimmins.com is my portfolio site, and then it has like links to like my Threadless page with t-shirts and then my page where you can buy like original art and stuff. But that's
cool,
sort of
man.
for everything.
Yeah. Oh, we'll put some links in there.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for like an hour now,
Okay.
if you can believe it. So we will probably we'll end the podcast there, but I'll like I said, I'll put the links in the description, and definitely tell everybody to look out for shark fin. I'm not trying to like put you on edge or anything, but maybe light a little fire under your ass, because I know you've been talking about it for a while, and I want to see this comic. Like I think it looks cool, so I'm putting it out there. Here we are, and
okay, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, we're this episode will go up in September of 2021. So it's like if we don't see this comic soon after,
I'll just quit.
Yeah, just like we got the dates logged. This episode's on YouTube.
All right. I'll just go off the rails.
Well, cool, man. Thank you. Thank you again for doing this.
Sure, it was fun.
Yeah, no, this was good. Hey, everybody, Aaron Walter here, just reminding you that if you like this podcast, please subscribe to the channel. Also, head over to secondthoughtcomics.com to stay up to date on the various comics that I write. For a limited time, I'm giving away a free PDF of my latest graphic novel, The Amoral Stingray. All you have to do is sign up to the Second Thought Comics newsletter. Link is in the description. Thanks for reading.